leaving projects and tasks on the back burner that you know could generate more revenue in your business? Let's talk about a little activity that you can do to free up space on your calendar and for your team members as well. So I was recently onboarding a new member of my Retain group coaching program for retention leaders. This person is the CXO, which is the Customer Experience Officer for an 8-figure membership. And they asked me one question, and I was honestly surprised by my own answer and thought, dang, that was good. I got to share that with the community creators. So that's what I'm going to do today. So the question that he asked was, what is one piece of advice you would give me? Here he is in week 1 of this role. And he's trying to get his arms around the data and the team and everything that's going on. And he's just like, hey, is there anything that I haven't asked you? Is there anything I need to know that you haven't told me yet? What came to mind for me was something that I recognize a lot when I work with one-on-one clients and start digging in to their team member activities. And it's this concept of evaluating all of the activities that are going on in a business for yourself, and for the team members as well. Here's why this is important. Oftentimes, we add new projects, new tasks, new responsibilities without ever evaluating what is already on our plate or the plate of our team members, or really just in the purview of the company as a whole. And then what happens is we end up with overwhelmed and overworked staff members, overwhelmed and overworked business owner, and just a lot of bloat inside of the business. What I've seen happen as this is perpetuated year after year with certain businesses is that everything gets heavy and complicated. They end up hiring more team members because current team members are at capacity. They end up having to get advanced project management systems in place, advanced customer relationship management systems, and project managers to manage those project management systems. And they end up with an overinflated investment in tools and in team. And what ends up happening is their profit margin shrinks significantly. And what I've seen happen before is that when the profit margin shrinks enough, the owner panics. And when the owner panics, they tend to start to cut programs, or there tend to be layoffs. And a lot of this can be prevented. How? Well, just by regularly auditing the activities of every team member and the priorities and general responsibilities of the business as a whole. Because what was serving us 2 years from now or 2 months from now may not be an activity that is serving us anymore. There are often activities that team members are doing day in and day out because at some point somebody told them to, or at some point they needed to do that to run the business. But it's no longer effective, right? There's no longer a return on that investment. So what I really want to encourage you to do is to have every team member and you yourself lay out all of the different roles, responsibilities, tasks, and activities and projects that you have on your radar. Put it all in a document. And then you go on a mission to try and justify to the team as to why that activity should remain on your list. This will lead you on a journey of trying to answer a few questions. One is there actual value here in this activity? Do we have any data that is showing that this is producing a positive return on investment? That's not always the determining factor. In fact, I'm the community person talking to you about this right now, and we all know that community is often not directly correlated with a revenue return right away, right? We can't always connect those dots. I understand that, but that's why we have these other factors as well. Who would notice if this activity is no longer taking place? What balls would drop? What would it impact if this activity was no longer happening, if this task wasn't getting done? Oftentimes, the answer is no one. No one would notice, and there wouldn't be a ripple effect or a domino effect if this activity wasn't completed. The other question that you can ask is there an easier way to accomplish the goal of this particular activity? Every task or activity that we do or project that we have has a particular goal, right? I do this activity because I have to report these metrics to this person, or I do this activity because we need to make sure that people get out of the Facebook group or get into the Facebook group. So the question I want you to ask is there a way to automate this? or to speed this up with advanced technology. It's just in the last year that we really have access to AI tools that can make a lot of things happen a lot faster and can automate a lot of tasks for us that previously were pretty manual. So we want to make sure that we're staying on top of technology and that we're always advancing inside of our business and leveraging technology as best we can. Remember, we talk about automating not so that we can alienate, but so that we can create space for more leveraged activities, for more human-to-human connection, okay? The things that are unscalable. And that is how we are able to increase profitability a lot of times, is by increasing and improving the automation and the leveraging of technology and tools like AI to take what was once a manual task that took a team member quite a bit of time, maybe over a month's period, right? Maybe a little bit of time every day or a little bit of time every week, but over a month and over a year, that's a lot of time, right? That could be leveraged elsewhere. But we take that manual stuff and we replace it with automated processes or with AI. But we do ask first that we justify the need for the task. Then we can ask ourselves, like, how can we automate this and improve it? So then finally, we really want to be able to show how it supports the business goals. Business goals change over time, which means that our plates should be changing. What's on the plate? The activities, tasks, responsibilities, those should be shifting as well as business goals shift. And oftentimes they don't. We just layer on because it's a lot easier to check the boxes than it is to evaluate what's on our list. So when you do this, when you take the time to write all of this down and audit all of the activities and to really have to build a case for each one of them, not just the fact that activity exists and that it supports the business goals in some way, but that the way the activity is being done is the best way to do it. Because oftentimes there's a better way. There's an easier way. There's a faster way, right? So as you go through this activity, I just want to tell you, it is okay to stop activities that don't make sense anymore. It is okay to pause projects that you can no longer directly correlate or justify in relation to your business goals. It's okay to say, hey, let's let this go and see if anybody really notices and see if it has an impact on the metrics. In fact, one time I was at a mastermind and my friend Brandy was there. And I still remember Brandy talking to us about all of the different deliverables that she had in her membership. We started talking about participation rates and what that was looking like. And there was one deliverable in particular that we all kind of thought, do you really think you need to do that? Or is that just something you're doing because you've always done it? Because it didn't seem like it was solving a clear problem for people. It didn't seem like people were really participating. So the next month, do you know what she did? She just didn't do it. She didn't give them that one deliverable. And nobody noticed. Nobody emailed her. Nobody reached out. Nobody complained. And from that point on, she no longer created that deliverable. There was no fuss. There was no announcement of the change. It was just something that she quietly did. And the easiest way for her to test the impact of it was just to not do it and see what happened. And that actually shifted a lot inside of her membership. She simplified it a lot, made it a lot easier to deliver, and a lot more effective for the people who were participating because it had a lot less bloat. So any communication that was coming their way, they knew was going to be high value activity or high value call. So I really want to encourage you to go through this auditing process because so often we're always adding and we're never actually subtracting. And I want to give you some permission to do some subtracting. Do subtracting to make space for new strategies. Do some subtracting to make space for new projects and initiatives. And make sure that you're streamlining all of the activities in your business to those that are generating the highest return on investment. My guess is that there are some very clear revenue generating activities that you have put on the back burner. If you're listening to this podcast, I know that you've been interested in community before. I know you've probably been interested in retention, but many of you are saying, well, this isn't the year, right? We're going to focus on something else. We're going to deal with acquisition, or we just don't have time to focus on retention now, or we don't really have time to look at improving our community management skills. That's one of those revenue generating activities that often gets pushed to the back burner, that when you do an audit like this, you can find a lot of frivolous tasks that you don't need to be doing anymore so that you can create space for something like going through the Cultivate course or joining Retain and improving your retention, because that has a direct effect on ROI. So I highly encourage you to do something like this process on a quarterly basis. I want to put it on my own task calendar to do this because I often find myself spending time creating things like reels when the reality is if I look at my revenue over the last year, I have probably earned $0 from a reel. Right? I'm not in the business of making reels and getting new customers and clients via Instagram. My business is built on relationships and on word of mouth and referrals because of the quality of work that I deliver. And that's pretty hard to communicate over Instagram. So when I find myself spending way too long trying to create a reel, which I have in the past, I now have audited that activity. I know that it's something that I shouldn't be prioritizing, and so it's no longer on my weekly to-do list. And I want to give you that same kind of freedom. All right, friend, take some time over the next month for you and your team to go through an audit. Make sure that you are only keeping the things on your plate that have a very clear purpose that can be easily justified, and that you've optimized those activities as much as possible.